Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Althea Williams. I am the owner of Hallmark Movie Channel fan page on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us today. I will be covering a movie that came on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries channel this past Friday, February 23rd at 9 p.m. It was called CrimeTime FreeFall. It stars Luke McFarlane and Lydia Greenwood. I will say this, if you do not like spoilers, I suggest that you turn back right now. But if you don't mind spoilers, sit down, grab a cup, and let's discuss some things. There will be major spoilers and some that will still leave you on cliffhanger. As much as I can, I will try to cover as much of the movie that I did like and some parts that I thought was kind of not necessary. But these are also my opinions. If you do not like them, I understand. We can agree to disagree, but we're here to also have fun and just discuss how you like the movie and how I view the movie. Okay, let's get started. So Luke McFarlane plays Detective Sean, and Lydia Greenwood plays Hadley. Hadley is a she is going into retiring actress. She was playing on a show called CrimeTime. So she takes her two kids, Rain and Hendrix, back to Colorado. They move to Colorado after she retires, and they're going to stay in Colorado for 6 months. And when they first arrive in Colorado, they go to a diner. And right off the bat, Lydia knows some things that she sees, that she peeps a guy named Kirk. He's giving out his resume, and he's looking for a job. But before they went into the diner, I noticed something. They was talking to a guy named Anson. Anson is handing out flyers, putting up flyers, not handing out flyers. He was putting up flyers for his business partner, Sam Davis, that went missing just a couple days ago. I'm guessing from the movie. Okay, so her son makes a shout out, say, hashtag Sam Davis, he's missing. And the guy said, I appreciate it. And, they go into the diner. So fast forward to the diner. They're meeting a guy named Jay, which is the realtor that is showing her the house. Well, brought her to the house that she's going to be living at while she's in Colorado. And he introduced her to, some things around the house or whatever, and her kids. And he does tell the kids that there's not going to be no Wi-Fi. And the kids are freaking out. No Wi-Fi. He said, well, they'll be set up tomorrow. And then their grandmother comes, and she talks to Hadley, which is Hadley's mom, and she greets the grandkids. And then they get settled into the home, and it's time to go to bed. So the kids come talk to their mom or whatever before they're going to bed. And she was like, are y'all ready for school? She asked her oldest daughter, Rain, is she going to be ready for school tomorrow? And Rain was like, yeah, I don't know if they're going to like me. She said, well, I love you, so they're going to like you or whatever. So Rain walks out the room, and Hadley's trying to settle in the bed and go to sleep. And Hadley hears screams, and she wakes up. Her son jumps in the bed, tells him, you need some company? She was like, yeah, that's fine. So they hear screams again. They scream like, Rain! And Rain comes there and says, so why are y'all screaming? I'm trying to get some sleep. And they was like, you didn't hear those screams? She was like, no, I didn't hear no screams. Oh, she's like, oh, those are the screams from the goats. And she shows them the video. I never heard the goats screaming. And it was like, no, or whatever. Then they hear the screams again. And then after the screams of the goats, they hear a gunshot. And then Rain jumps in bed with them, which I thought was totally funny, because you was just saying that they was blowing stuff out of proportion, and now you're blowing out of proportion because you heard gunshots. And what does Hadley do? She gets up, calls the police. And then that's where nice-looking Detective Sean comes to the house. And at first you can tell that he was kind of blown away because Hadley opens the door and he was kind of mesmerized by her. That's what I saw. I don't know about anybody else, but I saw that. And Hadley was like, she's in her nightgown and she has her hair tied up, and she welcomes him in, and she's like, you want a cup of coffee? He was like, yeah, that'd be nice. So he comes in, and her daughter said something to her kind of smirky, and it's kind of funny, and she was like, whatever, like she's trying to get some stuff done. So she lets him come in the kitchen, and she's trying to get the cocoa maker to make. And I will say that cocoa maker was really nice. I would even invest in one of those. I'm not even a cocoa person. I'll do it for my coffee because I love me some coffee. But she couldn't get the machine to work. She was like, usually my assistant handles this. And her assistant was named Skylar because she kept, referring to Skylar a few times in the movie. And her daughter was like, Mom, you don't got an assistant no more because your you're not famous no more, so you don't really need an assistant. So, yeah. Well, she's still famous, but she doesn't need an assistant for not even, working no more. So, yeah. So he asked her, did she need some assistant? And she was like, no. She's like, well, what'll be fine? He's like, I'm good or whatever. So she tells him she hears gunshots. He's like, yeah, you hear gunshots. It's hunting season. So, it may ricochet off of the mountains that's close by. She said, no, it sounds too close by. And he was like, really? He said the only thing he heard coming up here was goats. And she was like, well, I heard gunshots. And he was like, well, I mean, you're out here in the middle of nowhere. If you don't hear like the goats or the crickets or anything, that's when you have to worry. And she's like, okay. He said, well, if you hear anything else or whatever, give me a call, whatever. She takes his card and he goes on about his merry way. The next day, she gets the kids ready and they're going to school. Well, they already gone ready because the next scene moves to them in front of her car and they go to school. Then she goes to the diner to meet her mom and they're talking. She's like, Mom, I've done everything I need to do, whatever. Well, because before she goes to the diner, she goes back home and her agent Sanders calls her. And Sanders is trying to get her to do a memoir. And she was like, I'm not a writer or whatever. So, she goes to talk to her mom. Like I said, she goes to the diner. And she's talking to her mom, and Sam Davis, the guy that's missing, his mom comes up and talks to her mother, and she meets Sam Davis' mom. She gives her like a little reassurance, like, he'll come home or whatever, because like I said, she's done crime shows or whatever, and she really thinks that he will come home. So a little more fast forwarding into after, Sam's mom walks away and goes to go meet her friend or whatever. Her kids come in there and, she was like, she asked him how school was. And he was like, they weren't really feeling it or whatever. So she takes her kids home and then she goes home and she fixes her trophy that she did break while she was in Los Angeles before she left. She broke a trophy. Like, I think it was like an Oscar. It's supposed to be like an Oscar or something. Some kind of award she won for acting, I could tell. But she didn't go into too much details about it. She ended up fixing it while she was at home. And she felt so accomplished. And she started dancing. And then she went outside. And she heard some noise in the background. She heard the goats. And then she heard like some sound. Like, how when I don't know if you ever was living with your grandmother. And, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to reference like that. But you hear something like blowing in the wind. So it was some parachute. It was a parachute. So she pulls the parachute back, and what does she find? She finds a dead body. And I was like, OMG, is this Sam Davis? So, lo and behold, she calls the police. Then the next scene goes to when Detective Sean is with Anson, which is Sam Davis' business partner. And he's asking him a whole bunch of questions. And he was like, when's the last time you seen Sam or whatever? He was asking all kinds of questions. Then his phone rings. And, of course, well, I think it's a text message, not rings. And he looks at it, and he was like, okay, well, I'll be in touch. He's like, do you have suspects to text? He's like, I'll be in touch. So he leaves at the office. He goes to the crime scene, and lo and behold, they're like, is this Sam Davis? They don't know because they got to do fingerprints and stuff like that. And he was like, is that a bullet? Is that a hole for a bullet? And he was like, yeah, it looks so. So it looks like it's a murder. It's a homicide. It's not an accident. It's a homicide. So fast forward. Okay. Hadley's in there with Jay, her realtor, and they're having martinis, and they're having, like, their little girl talk. And, like, have you ever had, like, a girl talk with one of your guy friends? Y'all just, like, gossiping, like, y'all having y'all really good moment. I love those type of moments. So she was sitting there, and she was drinking with him, her martinis. And she was talking about, I need to get some security. And he was like, yeah, I know a guy, his name, and I can refer to him. He's like, he's really good, but he likes to play the banjo. He used to play the banjo. And don't let him get started on that banjo, because once he starts talking about that banjo, he's that's all he thinks about. He gets sidetracked, and he's talking about that banjo, and yeah, I'm telling you about it. So she was like, well, I really need that or whatever. So her mom stops by the house with Steph, and Steph, I guess, views the body and say, hey, that is my son or whatever. I'm guessing because it didn't say no. She was like, yeah, my son is gone or whatever. And she was like, I feel like this is the reason that you're here. She told Hadley, I think this is the reason why you're here, because my son has been murdered and you can solve the crime. So she kind of gives Hadley the push to go with, solving my son's crime of murder. So what does Hadley do? She goes into detective mode. So she goes outside and she was trying to go to the crime scene. Detective Sean, which is AKA played by Luke McFarlane, kind of like brushed her away. And the other girl was like, oh my God, I love you. And she's like, I watched your show, whatever. And he's like, oh, wow, a fan, basically. You could tell he was like, by that facial expression. So he kind of gets Hadley off of where the crime scene is at. And then, he's trying to solve a murder. And Hadley goes in full detective mode and goes to try to help Detective Sean, and she's going to go find her some clues and stuff, and she's going to places and asking people questions, and Sean goes to go talk to the wife, which is Jen, and Jen is like, really upset, and she said they were having marriage problems. And at first, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, I said maybe Jen did something or she knows something, and then I was like, Anson, and then I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, the guy Kirk from the diner that was passing out his resumes, because Kirk was Sam Davis and Anson employee that got fired a day before he went missing, and Sam Davis also had a restraining order. I was like, so Kirk had every motive, like I said, because he fired him, and it would look like that too, but it wasn't even Kirk. And I was like, dang. And it wasn't Jen, and it wasn't even doggone Anson, and it would make sense for him too, because he was a business partner. He was trying to sever ties with him, and it looked like when you go later deep into the movie, it looks like Jan and Anson was having an affair together. And I was just like, who is the killer? And when, lo and behold, when the killer was revealed, I was like, oh my God, what the heck? This guy was sitting here while they was making posters talking about the crime and crime scenes, and he's sitting there doing it because, like, okay, when it first came revealed, before they revealed who the killer was, I was like, Jay was sneaky. It's him. But lo and behold, it was Steven. Steven is the guy that set up the cameras and was watching her home because she was paying him extra. She asked him to, she said, I'm going to pay you extra for staying on the property to make sure my kids are okay. Can you imagine just offering somebody extra money for them to secure you? And they're actually the killer, because she had a neighbor that lived like 20 miles from her. His name was, what was his name? I can't remember his name. Hold on 1 second. Let me look. Because I want to make sure I have the right details to give you guys. Because the other person, her neighbor, was a guy named Frank. Frank also came to the station in front of Hadley, because she was like, I have a clue that I got from the campsite. She was like, I think that Frank did it, because she went to go see Frank. She was like, did you hear gunshot? He's like, I didn't hear gunshot. He's like, you're going to mess around, basically. She felt as though he threatened her, but he really didn't threaten her. He was just saying, you might get hurt from like going to go investigate some stuff. And she was like, Frank was the killer. And Jay, which was her realtor, said, well, Sam did think that he killed his wife because she fell down the stairs. And he's like, he's always blasting. He was innocent. He was guilty, but he was acquitted because he didn't kill his wife. So, because she fell down the stairs. So it was an accident. So, I mean, like she was, I guess she was walking down the stairs, or something happened. She just fell down the stairs somehow. I don't know. But they should have deep dived in that too, because that was like a little storyline they could have went with, kind of like, and said what happened, but they didn't. But CrimeTime FreeFall, it's a must watch. I liked it. I would give it a 7 out of 10. And the reason why I give it a 7 out of 10, because there were some parts that were kind of dorky, like when she was like investigating a lot and she kept texting Detective Shane. It was just like, okay, he was kind of like, I would say he was kind of like smitten with her, but not smitten with her. He was kind of like, he was trying to make it as a joking matter. Like when she went to go see Jan and go talk to her, and she was like, Jan was like, which is Sam Davis' wife. She was like, the police need to look into Kirk. And he was like, Hadley's about to fly and Jan's gonna teach her or whatever, like jump out the plane or whatever, like the little thing that Jan and her husband did, like parachuting or whatever. And he was trying to make it like little things, like you could tell he was smitty with her. And it was like, you could tell there was like a little bit of moments they had together, and it was kind of cute. And I thought they was gonna explore it, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm glad that we got to see a movie where they didn't really get smitty with each other, but you could tell they was smitty, but like not all that lovey-dovey stuff. But if they did make another episode, I am all for it. forward. I really hope that Hallmark really does continue storylines. Just don't make a movie and don't make no other ones. Because like I said, I really want to see more of Hadley and Detective Sean. Because like I said, I thought it was good. And I'm a big Luke McFarlane fan. I like a few other people like Tyler Haynes or whatever, Paul Campbell or Andrew Walker. You know, just a few to throw out there. And yeah, I just want to see more of mysteries. Like, if you're going to make a mystery, just keep going. Like the one that TMR just did, Mystery in G-Land or something. I mean, I might be saying it wrong, but I'm going to have a comment below and just tell me what you think. And so we can discuss. I'll be doing some more reviews later on in the week. And this will be my first one. So tell me how I did. And your reviews are always welcome. Good, bad, or indifference. Because we're going to agree to disagree. And like I said, you have your opinion. I have mine. And we're not here to sit here and start an argument. We're just here to have fun and just talk about the movie. All right. Thank y'all.